Welcome to the 2026 Premier League predictions standings realized. So basically predicting the standings. Tomorrow, expect me to do a Premier League Match Day 1 predictions video, which we are 2 days away till the first game of the 2026-27 Premier League game between Coventry City and Arsenal in the Emirates, the defending champions of the Premier League against the champions of last season's championship, Coventry City, making their return in the Premier League for the first time in 24 years. So let's get through it, shall we? I'm also going to talk about their best summer transfer signing and the players to watch, the player to watch this season. So in 20th place, I have Hull City. I'm sorry for the Tigers. I would love for them to stay up, but I just think this season is going to be a way hard season for them. Sergej Jakovic, the Croatian, is taking over as the coach. Who, by the way, took over this team a year ago and led them, of course, to the championship playoff final and won it and got promoted to the playoffs. And that's going to be a lot different. This is going to be a real tough year going into a lot has changed in the Premier League for Hull City. It's been 9 years. The last time they've been there was 2016 to 17 year. That was the last time Hull City was been there. So their summer transfer, they've been making moves. One of those big name signings, well, not big name signings. One of their best signings was Noble Mendy, the center back from Rayo Valenciano. That's an interesting pickup to fix up the defense. They want to go fix that defense as well. And I do think goalkeeper, they added two goalkeepers. One of them was Jack Butland, who is injured. They did bring in an Olympiacos goalkeeper who won the Conference League with Olympiacos. I think his last name is Tokisolis, if I'm right. But the player to watch is Oliver McBurn, the striker for Scotland. He was the reason why he got Hull City into that promotion. And the question is going to be is this club ready to get wins? Can they do what Sunderland did last season? Yes, they're making moves. It's going to be more about can those players step up this season and can they get maybe some good wins? But I have them in 20th place. I don't think I'm just going to say they're going back to the championship. Also going back in the championship at 19th place, I got Ipswich Town. They got a new coach in Gary O'Neill after Kieran McKenna step away, which was one of the surprises. Kieran McKenna was been linked to jobs like Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United, but Kieran McKenna says, nope, you know what? I'm going to step down. I want to take a break from football. And so he leaves and comes in Gary O'Neill, who has Premier League experience, of course, coach for Bournemouth and Wolves. His last job was, of course, in Strasbourg in the League One. But those are big shoes to fill because Kieran McKenna did a great job for Ipswich to getting them back into the Premier League. That's hard work for a manager like Kieran McKenna. But for Gary O'Neill, it's more about how much pressure he is in this job. Now, they did brought Julio Enciso back in the summer transfer, which he has played this club before. And he's been with Brighton, of course. And then his last club was in Strasbourg. So I think that's a good pickup for Ipswich. They did also sign Luca Velasco, the midfielder for Fulham. So he's going to hopefully upgrade that midfield. The player to watch is center back Derek O'Shea. I think he's going to need to do a lot of step up for this year. Because if you remember 2 seasons ago, he came to Ipswich to fix that center back position. Did a lot he can. I think this year's going to be a lot harder, and he's going to have to make some step up this year. All right, so now goes to 18th place. This is where I think I think this is going to be one of my bold predictions of the season. I think you guys will go with me on this one. I have Fulham going to the championship. I have them going relegated. Now, here's why. They got a new coach who is, let's say this is his first ever coaching job. Let's say that. Alvaro Arabolo, the first time coach. He's never coached full time before. Again, he did it in Real Madrid, but that was Real Madrid. That was one of the biggest clubs. That's not, he didn't do much there, but now going to his first ever full time job as a head coach in Fulham, it's pressure for him and for the club in Fulham. Now, their best signing is Real Madrid's forward, Gonzalo Garcia, their forward. He's not Raul Jimenez. He's not Harry Wilson, which I think those are two big losses, by the way. Harry Wilson was really good with Fulham, and Raul Jimenez was a big loss. And yes, when you're replacing Marco Silva as well, it leans towards more pressure on the manager than where the club is. The player to watch, I think, is defender Anthony Robertson, who did have some good times in the United States at the World Cup. I think he's going to need to make some step ups this year. But my major question is this: is Fulham the right team to get from 11th place to relegation, or is Alvarado going to make the doubters know, hey, I can still coach. Hey, this is my first time team coach, but I'm going to do my best to get this team up towards what they want. And again, I don't know. I think this is going to be a lot of pressure on Alvarado, but I got Fulham in relegation zone. So who is safe? In 17th place, I have Coventry City, led by head coach Frank Lampard, the Chelsea legend midfielder, leads the Sky Blues into the return to the Premier League after 24 years of miserable lives. Well, miserable is a quote for me, but it's been hard for them. After their relegation in 2000 to 2001 season, it was one of the most tough stories for Coventry. They didn't get back to the Premier League. They've been stuck in the Championship. Then they went down to League One. And then I remember, I believe 3 years ago, Coventry had a coach that got them to the playoff final, but they lost to Luton Town. And then 2 years then, they were on the brink of relegation. They fire their coach, and they bring in Frank Lampard to save the club. And he did that. He saved the club. He got them to the promotion. And I think for the Sky Blues, I think I have a real good chance at Coventry surviving this season. They are one of the founding members of the Premier League, one of the founders of this league. Summer transfers. I love the Gustavo Hammer signing. He has played this club before, and since then he left to Sheffield United, playing some Premier League football, and now he's coming back in the Premier League playing football with Coventry City. The player to watch, I think, is the goal scorer from the championship last year, Haji Wright, the United States forward, who I think is going to score goals. If I'm looking for his range, I think you're looking at between 10 to 15 goals. I think he can do that with Coventry. And I think Coventry City, folks, are going to survive this season. In 16th place, I have Everton, led by coach David Moyes. Listen, I think everybody's going to go a little lower with Everton, but maybe a little higher to Everton. But again, I'm worried about, is David Moyes still the guy for Everton? And if he's not, who could they hire either during the season or next season? That's going to be my other question. Now, they did bring in Hayden Hector, one of the players to keep an eye on last season in Middlesbrough. He goes to Everton, so he's going to have a real good chance in his Premier League debut. Players to watch, of course, is Jordan Pickford, the English goalkeeper. Yeah, there were some games that he had tough in the World Cup, but it don't matter. He's Everton's #1 goalkeeper. Again, he's going to have to do a major step up. But again, I'm only concerned is David Moyes. Is he the right guy in Everton? At 15, again, I think I'm going to get stung by this team. Brentford. Last season, I had them in relegation. And all of a sudden, they finished in 8th place, which was probably in the top 10. That was an incredible achievement for Keith Andrews. Now, is that season magical? Then, well, we're going to have reality. And I think this is going to be the reality. And Keith Andrews, second year as the coach of Brentford, it's going to feel a lot of pressure too. Now, they lose Jordan Henderson, which is tough because he left to Chelsea. They did bring in Mamadou Sandré, a midfielder for the club. I think this is a good pickup for them to replace Jordan Henderson. I think the player to watch is Igor Tudor, who was second in the Golden Boot race with Erling Haaland. Listen, I think he's getting a lot better. I think their ceiling is 7th place and maybe a chance for Conference League football in the GTEC Community Stadium. That would be awesome. But last season could have been better if they have won a lot of those games to get to Europe. But they fell a little short to Europe. But I think this year's going to be more of a step back year for Brentford. All right, in 14th place, I think this is a bit too high, but I have to go with the realistic predictions I've seen over the years. Crystal Palace. Now, Pierre Sage is their new coach who is coming in from RC Lens, led Lens to their first domestic trophy in 101 years. So congratulations to Lens, by the way. But Sage is going to have big shoes to fill because, again, Oliver Glasner came in to get Crystal Palace to win trophies, won 3 trophies, including their Europa Conference title, which sent them to Europa League, which is big for them. Now, Crystal Palace, their big signing was Javier Gozo, who scored 6 goals in the 2026 season with Real Salt Lake this season. So they need to score goals, and I think bringing him in, who I believe is 19 years old or 18, he's going to be a good goal scorer alongside Jean-Philippe Matan at that forward position. The players to keep an eye on, I'm going to say Jordan Strand Larson. Remember, they signed him last season from Wolves to help that striker position and fill that need. I think he's going to score like 10, 15 goals this season. I think he's going to be a big step up. And I think questions are going to be around Pierre Sage than what they have in the squad. 13th place, I got Newcastle United. Matthias Jaslo, the German, takes over as the coach there. And this is a tough season for them because Eddie Howe moves on with Newcastle after 5 years. They lose Anthony Gordon. They lose Bruno Garameras. And then Sandro Tonali gone. Who do you replace? Well, it's really hard. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, they have a new coach in Matthias Jasler who has won trophies, but he's never coached in those bigger club situations. But I think this is going to be an opportunity for him to take this team back to where they were supposed to be. Champions League football, European football, or maybe winning another trophy like a Carabao Cup or FA Cup. But so their best player to watch, I think it's William Osula. Maybe it's going to be Dan Burn. Maybe it's going to be Jurgen Witzel, Walter Mull, the striker who came in from Strasbourg. I think he could show up. But I think William Osula performed really well with Norway for the World Cup. And I think he can do this for Newcastle. The players they brought in the forward from Hoffenheim, Basumana Torres. So ceiling for them, I think, is top 10. I think just right now, 13th place is going to be more questions about their manager. In 12th place, I got AFC Bournemouth with Marco Reus, the German, taking over as coach after Aaron Areola left with the contract expire, and now he's over there in Anfield with Liverpool. They brought in Antonio Silva, the defender from Benfica, and I think the player to watch, and I hope he's not leaving Bournemouth because he's on the transfer list. Ryan, the Brazilian forward, he is really talented. He's a young player, a rising player for Bournemouth, and I hope he does not go anywhere, and I hope he stays in Bournemouth because Bournemouth cannot afford to lose one of their young next generation players of Bournemouth to leave the club and go somewhere else. I think Ryan should stay in Bournemouth if they're going to want to win some European trophy. All right, number 11, I got Leeds United. I think Leeds United surprised. Again, I picked Leeds United and Sunderland last season to survive, and they did that. They survived this year. Now, Daniel Farke is their coach again. There's going to be some questions about him. But other than that, their best signing was Harry Wilson. They bring in Harry Wilson, who his contract expired in Fulham. Well, they got him, and that was huge. They bring him in. He's going to be alongside Donovan Calvert-Lewin, who scored 14 goals with Leeds United. And I think Leeds United, folks, I think they're going to be a top 10 team in the Premier League this season. I think if Harry Wilson and Donovan Calvert-Lewin score goals, I think they're going to end up maybe a top 10 team. Watch out for Leeds United, folks. All right, entering the top 10, I have Sunderland at number 10. Yes, they didn't do much in the transfer window this year because last season they spent a lot, of course. But Release Lebris is not going to give up for this club. Now, maybe people are putting them at 17, maybe 13. I think, for me, I was thinking 13, but I think 10th place would probably be my bold prediction. Now, they only signed one player, and that's Thomas Müller, the defender who played for PSG. He's now in Sunderland. Player to watch, I'm going to go with Granit Xhaka. Remember, Granit Xhaka was been linked to Chelsea. Chelsea wanted to sign Granit Xhaka, but he said, nope, I want to stay with the Black Cats. We want to win a trophy in the Stadium of Light. And they're a European league, so they're going to have a question. How are they going to balance not only European League football, but Premier League? So that's going to be my question there. Number 9, I have Nottingham Forest. Maybe a big year for Forest after hiring Oliver Glasner, which is their 5th manager. Since Nuno was fired, they brought in Andrew Postecoglou. Since then, he was gone. Sean Dyche. Since then, it was Victor Pereira. And now they bring in, of course, Oliver Glasner. And yeah, he is coming off a trophy season. 2 trophy wins, by the way, the Community Shield and Europa Conference League football. But I think Forest is going to be more better than they were last year. Last year's been injuries. Last year was coaching. Last year was European football and Premier League. They couldn't balance their season. Well, now, no European football, so the good news is they should be more better than they were last season. Their best transfer signing was Ousmane Dembélé, the defender who played for the Ivory Coast. I think he's going to make a huge step up for that defense. The player to watch, obviously, is Morgan Gibbs-White. Really talented midfielder, and I think he will score goals too. 10, 15 goals, or maybe 20, maybe. You never know what he can do. But I think right now for Nottingham Forest, 9th place is perfect, and it would be enough for Oliver Glasner to stay in the City Ground. Number 8, happy birthday to 125th years of Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, and I have them at 8th. Fabian Herzl is still their coach. He got his extension for them. Now they got to get them ready because this is 125th birthday for this club. They got to Europe football, which is Conference League, which I think they should win this year's Conference League with the players they brought in. Luka Vaskovic, the defender from Spurs, that's a great pickup for Brighton. The player to watch, I think, is Bart Bergen, the goalkeeper from the Netherlands, of course. He is their goalkeeper one, but I think they can go a little higher. I was thinking them at top 10, maybe 10th place, but I think 8th place is enough for them to potentially maybe sneak in for Europe. 7th place, I got Spurs. Oh boy. But I think Spurs are going to be way better. Roberto De Zerbi's there once again this season, and they made some big moves. One of those big moves is Sandro Tonali, the midfielder from Newcastle. I love that move. And plus, their best player is going to be, I think, Donovan Solanke. He's going to hopefully score goals, like 15 goals. They brought him from Bournemouth because they need some scoring goals with Richarlison as well. So I think Solanke fits. I think they're going to probably end up going to Conference League. I think there is a chance they get to Europe. 6th place, Aston Villa. I think Unai Emery is a good coach for Villa Park and for the fans. Their signings, of course, listen, they're not big names, but they did bring one of them, Switzerland's very own John Mensahbe, who was shining in the World Cup with Switzerland. He comes into Aston Villa, and I think that's a great pickup at midfield because, again, Morgan Rogers is gone. He's now in Chelsea. Player to watch, I'm going to go with John McGinn. Now, there's been a lot of reports of Oli Watkins, there's been a lot of reports of him maybe going to the Saudi Pro League, which I was going to put him, but there's some reports of him maybe going to the Saudi Pro League. So I'm going with their captain, John McGinn. And, of course, what happens with Emiliano Martinez, they have to fix the goalkeeper, but the good news is they did bring in someone from Paramount. I think it's Zuka Karama, who played for Japan as a national team's goalkeeper. So if Martinez does leave, he's going to step up for Villa. All right, top 5. Now this is where I think everybody's going to go interesting-wise. In 5th place, I got Chelsea with Xabi Alonso as their coach. I love the hire, and not only that, I love their signings they brought in. Jordan Henderson, Danny Welbeck, and of course, Morgan Rogers. They brought in 3 Premier League experienced players to come into Chelsea and hopefully deliver them to Europe. And the player to watch, obviously, is Cole Palmer. And I think last season was a disappointing season because of injuries, coaching, the style of play. I think this year could be his biggest year. With Xabi Alonso as the coach, I think he's going to want him to be an attacking midfielder, scoring goals. And again, I think Chelsea could go to 2nd place. That might be their ceiling. But I think for right now, I think 5th place is enough for Chelsea to get back to Europe. 4th place, Liverpool. Now on the slot is Aaron Areola as their coach. And this is a tough job for him because no Mo Salah, who's now in Turkish league. Andy Robertson is now with Spurs. So they had to replace most of those guys. They did bring in Rennes's defender, Jeremy Jacklett, the defender who is going to step up, of course, with the player to watch, Virgil van Dijk. And I think because he's getting older, probably Jeremy Jacklett is going to probably be the next guy with Virgil van Dijk. But I'm questioning around Anfield. Who's going to replace Mo Salah at that winger spot? That's going to be a major question this season. 3rd place, I got Manchester United with Michael Carrick as their coach. I'm so high on United this year because of Michael Carrick. Not only that, they brought some big name signings. One of them was Jurgen Tielemans, who started with Leicester City. Then he left to Aston Villa, and now he's going to Manchester United. And expect Michael Carrick's style play is pressing against those attacks. The player to watch, I'm going to go with forward Brian Mbembo. Remember, Brian Mbembo left Brentford to join United to go in that attacking form with Benjamin Sesko. And I think he's going to have a major season too, but Mbembo is going to have a bigger year. I think he should have a monster season, maybe 15 goals. So that leaves to Arsenal or Man City. In second place, it's Manchester City. I'm sorry, it's not your year, Man City. Not your year. So Arsenal are my Premier League champions. I'll get to Arsenal, but before we get to Arsenal, let's get to Man City. No Pep Guardiola, no Rodri, no Talent Reinster, the former Milan midfielder who they brought him last season, and he left to Saudi Pro League. Now their best signing was Elliot Anderson, of course, from Nottingham Forest, and I think he's going to be a lot of creative, and he is younger than Rodri is. The major question I have is manager. Is Enzo Maresca the guy to replace Pep Guardiola? Last season, led Chelsea to the Club World Cup final, won it. But last season, not only that, they just had a worse season for him, and he was sacked, surprisingly. But overall, I just think the results were not enough for Chelsea. So now going back to Manchester and coaching Man City, it's big shoes to fill. They got, of course, a player to watch. It's none other than Erling Haaland. He's going to win the Golden Boot, 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row? Who cares? But Erling Haaland, listen, respect to you, my friend. The King of Norway. That's what I would probably like to call it. But I think they're going to fall a bit short to Arsenal. Arsenal are stacked. Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Victor Gyökeres, David Raya. They just signed Kasar, the defender from Aston Villa. They just signed him earlier today. And they also signed Bruno Guimaraes, the midfielder from Newcastle. Listen, this Arsenal team is going to win back-to-back Premier League titles. Last year I picked Liverpool because I thought their signings were big, but major step back. But I think this year's Arsenal is going to be more tested. Can they win back-to-back? And it's going to be hard. They got to get through Man City. Got to get through the Chelsea, Spurs, United, Liverpool. They're going to have to get through them. And if they can do that, back-to-back Premier League titles will be in their hands. And Mikel Arteta, I think he's the best coach right now. After Pep Guardiola's retirement, I think Mikel Arteta is the best coach in the Premier League. That's it for my 2026 Premier League predictions. Again, I will do my match day 1 predictions tomorrow. If you haven't seen my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more sports news.